right, welcome to the Krueger Show. Larry Krueger, Grant Cohn joining me today on the channel as we talk a little 49er football. Niners practice for 3 days. They are off today. They are back at it tomorrow. I'll be in Santa Clara for tomorrow's practice, reporting back. Grant, good to see you, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. First week's in of training camp. It's exhausting, but I'm not exhausted yet. There's a lot to go. And you've been there too. You know how it goes. It's tiring. It's hot.
It's hot, but you're a veteran, man. See, you don't see. If you look at me, I've already burned and peeled. You take proper precautions. You've been there, done it.
Well, this is my 1 month of the year to get a tan. The rest of the year, I'm underground. I'm inside. So this has to last 11 months.
Well, let's start off with Trey Lance because I think this is kind of like, it's funny. It's like people coming at me. I'm sure people coming at you, and they're all asking the same kinds of questions. Like, man, I'm reading Trey's really has a low completion percentage, and I'm seeing these camp stats, and it seems like there's a lot of hemming and hawing that he doesn't look good, and he hasn't looked good. And I know he's had his moments. Give me your evaluation of what you've seen. We've seen 7 practices thus far. How much credence do you put into camp stats? Would you evaluate or grade out Trey to this point?
I actually think he's doing really well. Call me crazy. I understand the numbers aren't good, but this is a really good defense he's going against. I mean, you remember what Aaron Rodgers looked like against this defense 6 months ago and what Dak Prescott looked like against this defense. I think what we're seeing is an offense that's getting dominated. I mean, it's getting punked to the point that Brandon Iuk had to stand up for it and start a fight with Fred Warner. And Brandon Iuk is not getting punked. He's competing every day. He's one of the MVPs of this team. He's the offensive MVP. But other than him, there's very little fight in this offense. I mean, he's the only wide receiver getting open. Debo's just coming back. Kittle's still good. The two of them is pretty much them against the world. And so what we're seeing is a young quarterback who, when he reaches the top of his drop, has very few options. Usually no one's open yet. And so he has to buy time or throw the ball down the field. He's throwing low percentage passes, a lot of long throws. And you've been there. The placement's been good. It's just that sometimes at the catch point, his guys make the catch. Sometimes Mosley or Ward breaks it up. But to me, the placement has been much better than the 50% completion percentage would indicate.
What do you make of his kind of, he's got kind of a little bit of I don't want to say it's a hitch, but he's got a little bit of an elongated kind of release, like almost like a hitter has a start mechanism to his swing. He almost has like a start mechanism to his throw. Are you concerned at all? Do you think we're going to see, Cilia was comparing him to Gio Carmazzi this morning. I couldn't believe that. And I'm thinking to myself, I haven't seen Cilia at practice anytime soon, but what do you make? Do you have any concerns at all, Grant, about the release and that it has a little bit of a starting mechanism to it?
No, I don't. I think he's never going to be a guy that you would like. If you're teaching mechanics, you're not going to show Trey Lance ever.
Right.
You might show Jimmy. You might show Tom Brady. But with his skill set, you're not looking for perfection. You're looking for accurate enough, good enough, like Donovan McNabb. I remember Bill Walsh used to complain to my dad all the time about McNabb, about how his throw wasn't repeatable and it looked different every time. Yeah, okay. But he's not a pocket quarterback. He's the full package, and he was definitely accurate enough to be one of the better quarterbacks in the league and win a lot of games for a long time. And I think that's sort of what you're sort of hoping for from Trey Lance, is to be that kind of a quarterback. I mean, yes, with those kind of mechanics, you'd think accuracy would be an issue. But from what we're seeing in camp so far, his downfield accuracy is good. He just needs some wide receiver. He just needs Debo back, frankly. He's completed 2 passes to Debo in camp. Last year, Jimmy had Debo the entire time. It makes a difference. He's really good.
Sure. Yeah. What about the number 2 quarterbacks? I was saying that I really like Purdy coming out of minicamp, but sure enough, Sudfeld has looked at times pretty sharp. He seems like he's got pretty good accuracy numbers. Here's the thing though. So many of those passes, I saw one day somebody said, yeah, he was 11 for 11. And then, I'm sitting there watching it. It was like me handing you the ball. It was just like, they were not down the field throws. They weren't even to the sideline. They were literally just like late in the down, dump it off to the back on the other side of the line of scrimmage type throws.
That's the thing that kills me about
early in the down sometimes.
He's quick to throw that pass in the flat, and it almost feels like he's trying to get the high completion percentage just so he can say he had a good training camp or getting in the news. I don't really like it. For example, There's a 3rd and 9 the other day. He threw that check down pass in the flat immediately. You can't do that. Why would you practice that on 3rd and 9? You're trying to get the first down. So, yeah, I mean, he's all right. He also plays against Ambry Thomas all the time, who's just a completion waiting to happen. And, Debo's been playing with him. Sudfeld has 4 completions to Debo. Lance has 2. So there are a lot of things going in Sudfeld's favor. That being said, he throws a nice spiral, especially in comparison to Lance. When you watch Sudfeld throw, you're like, oh, wow. That's nice.
I heard the coaches like Sudfeld quite a bit. I mean, I don't know. Do you have any insight into that? I mean,
for the same reason they like Talanoa Hufanga, he probably asks a lot of questions, raises his hand.
Good in the meetings.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's probably what it is.
$1.99 49ers daddy. People keep sleeping on Lance. He thrives off of it. What do you think of the O-line in front of him? And there's a lot of young O-linemen in this camp, man. And it sounds like at times I had Barrows on the other day, and Barrows was talking up the kid from Mercer, Poe, saying that in the one-on-ones with the pads on, that he was playing with leverage and throwing people on their can. What do you think of Poe? What do you think of Burford? Those guys players? In your mind?
I was standing right next to Barrows. We were talking it through the entire time. We saw the same things. It was interesting. Poe plays left guard, same as Banks. And Banks starts. And Banks is a big freaking, he's like 6'5". He's 330. And then he goes up he had 3 reps against Alex Barrett, who's about 255, 6'2". Alex Barrett, someone must have told him something, but he just got underneath Aaron Banks' pads and drove him back easily. Put him on skates 3 times. It's like, damn, Aaron, you got to make an adjustment. You got to lower those pads. Then you see Jason Poe, 6'1", but I mean, you couldn't move him. He would get very little knockback. He would really anchor extremely well. He seems like, I mean, in that one drill, he's better than Banks right now. And then Burford, you think, he played tackle in college. He's young. He might not anchor well against defensive tackles. Wrong. He's good. He is their best guard right now. Like, he's their starting right guard. Better than Moore. Better than Brunskill, better than Banks. He's a find. He's got really long arms. He's going to be the first interior offensive lineman they've had in a while who I think will be a plus pass protector, not just a good run block. I think he's got the movement to do the run blocking, but he actually has the frame and the length to block people, which is important because he's going to have to match up with Aaron Donald. So Burford is the big, stock up guy. And then talking to the O-line coach today, they're really serious about Brendel. They're really down on Daniel Brunskill. It's funny. He must have done something in that 4th quarter of the Rams game that they're like, you know what, enough. This guy's a backup. Because with Brendel, they're like, he's got all the measurables. I mean, the O-line coach was literally comparing him to Creed Humphrey today. Literally. He's like, I'm not saying he's Creed Humphreys or anything, but you compare their height and their athletic. I'm just saying. So that they really want Brendel to work out. And Brunskill they see as sort of like their super backup who can fill in if necessary. But they're really talking themselves into this Brendel thing, which is scary. I mean, I understand from there, like, he's smart. He's got the measurables. He does everything right. You have no evidence from games. That talk about a leap of faith. So, yeah, I don't know. That's where they're at with that one.
What do you make of Brendel? Like, he was like the guy in minicamp, and then suddenly we get to training camp, and it's like he's persona non grata. Where's Brendel in this mix at center?
They pretty much split off days. Like, one day it'll be Brunskill, the other day it's Brendel. I think he's going to win this by default because Brunskill can't even snap the ball consistently. That's a liability. He's a turnover waiting to happen in the shotgun. Brendel can at least snap the ball. But the way I look at it is, I don't care how smart he is and how athletic he is. He's almost 30. If he had it, he would have shown it by now.
Right.
There's not enough quality starting centers in the league. So I don't understand the whole plan here. And honestly, to Chris Forster's credit, he wasn't hyping up the line. He was just giving an honest assessment of each player. And then at the end, he was like, we could have a good line. We could have an average line. We could have a bad line. I don't know. We'll see. So, yeah, I guess so.
Wow. So based on 1 week, you'd go left to right. Trent Williams, what's the rest of the line?
Well, I mean, Banks is going to get every single opportunity to get this job. But he's going to have to show something. And so far, he hasn't really been tested. They've had one-on-ones one day, and he didn't look good. So far, it's Banks. And then it'll be Brendel most likely. And then it'll be Burford and then McGlinchey. But there's also McKivitz and Moore, who are guards that are playing tackle right now because McGlinchey can't play that much and Williams doesn't play every snap. So if Banks or Burford stumble, McKivitz and Moore will sort of come into the picture. And then there's Poe, who I don't think is necessarily an option for now, but I think he could be a project who sort of like the Kevin Givens of the offense, who you could see sort of assert himself down the line.
What about the receivers? What's your thought on the receivers? I mean, it sounded like Danny Gray had a good day the other day. I wasn't there for that day, but to me, it seems like obviously you have Iuk and Debo and Juwan Jennings, those three, Ray McLeod, Danny Gray. Those are, let's say, 4 or 5. Are they going to go with 5, or is there any other receiver that Malik Turner, Keyshawn Johnson? I mentioned I like Tay Martin. We'll wait until the games start. But what do you think? 5 receivers, 6 receivers, and who's opened your eyes of the receiving core thus far?
I'm thinking 5 receivers. I could be wrong, but I think this is a team that is looking to lead the league in rushing attempts, rushing yards, rushing attempts per game. And in that case, what do you need 6 wide receivers for? You need 5 running backs. Probably. So what I see from this team is Iuk is having – everyone was expecting he'd have this third-year jump, sort of a contract year. Well, he's definitely doing it. He looks great. He looks as good as he possibly could be, the best version of him. And he what's interesting is he's not super fast. He's like 4.5 flat. To me, he looks like Crabtree 2.0, but better, a little bit faster, that ferocious, and that able to like – extend and make these catches way far away from that you wouldn't expect. So he's doing great. Debo hasn't been there, and he's been playing with the 2s this last week, so don't even talk about him at this point. Juwan Jennings just got shut out the last 3 days. I mean, right? This is a really good defense, and so far Iuk has lived up to the challenge, but Jennings just folded the last 3 days. He needs to come back and do better because there's no easy completions out here. Ray's hurt. He's got a bum ankle. He tried to practice on it for a couple of days. They gave him a day off. I mean, he probably turned his ankle, but he's not really doing much right now. And Danny Gray hasn't played with the starters yet. Maybe it's time. So that's where they're at. I mean, they're pretty much Iuk, and that's it right now.
Let me do my Cohn Zone video. It's August the 4th, and Jimmy Garoppolo is still a 49er. It's so weird. Isn't it weird to see him there? I mean, he's on the other field. He's playing catch. He was the leader of this team. He was 1 win away from going to the Super Bowl this last year. It's a bizarre situation. Now we're hearing that Goodell's has appealed the Deshaun Watson thing. You know that there's going to be a more severe penalty coming. I'm still thinking it may cost Watson and the Browns several games. Maybe he's out the whole year. Does that mean Jimmy to the Browns is on the table? Do you see that as likely? And if that is not the case, if Watson does not get the suspension extended, is it time to cut Jimmy and move on?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I think you pretty much laid it out. I think from the Niners' perspective, there's enough of a chance that Goodell could extend the suspension for the entire season and that the Browns will call the Niners up and say, okay, fine. We didn't see this coming. We didn't bet on this. Let's make a deal. They have to see it through from their perspective. They have to see it through because this could happen. If it doesn't, and probably at that point you cut bait because to me, this is a distraction. I mean, let me paint the picture. You're there, but let me paint the picture for everyone else. The Niners offense is getting its butt kicked every day in front of a lot of fans. And it's, trying to spin it as this is the best defense in the league, but it's kind of tough to see a 40% completion percentage on a given day. Meanwhile, you got Jimmy Garoppolo over here like kissing babies. Not really, but really. I mean, he's over there throwing passes and smiling and, hey, how you doing? And he's right in front of the fans. It's like, he's looking great. Offense looking terrible. It's almost like he's like, hey, come on. We want Jimmy. We're like 2 days away from that. And it's like, you don't think that's lost on Trey Lance? There's not enough pressure on him as is to have Jimmy over there in front of the fans. Like, there was really a moment where the team was warming up and Jimmy, a couple of days ago, Jimmy's on the side field, right? So there's a, you know it, there's that.
AstroTurf field.
Yeah, but there's also like a bunch of stands where fans can watch.
Right. You stay on the back.
Here, but everyone is turned backwards watching Jimmy, literally. And it's like, come on. And, everyone talks about the backup can't be a distraction. Colin Kaepernick can't be in the NFL because he's just too much of a distraction as a backup. What is this? This is the biggest distraction I've ever seen in a training camp, and it's frankly weird. Like, it started out, he's not out there. Then he's running on the side field. Then he's throwing over on the side field. Then he's throwing on the field. What's going to be tomorrow? Is he going to be in the huddle? It's weird. I don't like it.
Well, and is there any chance that anything that actually happens on the field, either in this camp or in the preseason, could make Jimmy go from, I don't know, the side field to the main field?
It makes you wonder, right?
Wouldn't that be stunning?
It makes you wonder, right? I mean, like, Trey Lance just went 3 for 9 yesterday. Not great. What if he goes 2 for 10 tomorrow? I mean, it seems to me that until Jimmy's gone, the Niners are sort of leaving that option open. And they don't even have to say it, but it's understood. And I'm sure Trey Lance understands it. And I really feel like he thought Jimmy was going to be gone. He was so confident during OTAs and minicamp. He diced up a very good defense. Now Jimmy's back on the field waving at fans, and Trey is puckering up a little bit. I can't blame him. It feels like this is the organization's job is to put the guy in the best position to succeed. And this is like, hey, let's put a little more pressure on your plate because I don't think we've put enough yet.
I mean, I mean, could you imagine? I mean, what if Trey does suffer some kind of an injury? I mean, I just think if it was like a 2-day injury or 3-day injury, some kind of bruise, probably nothing changes. But what if it was like a 3-week injury, a 4-week injury, a 5-week injury? Would that change the dynamic? Would suddenly Jimmy go from he's leaving to he doesn't have to leave?
What about this? What about you give Trey Lance all offseason, all training camp to prove himself? What if privately the Niners feel like, you know what, he's not ready? But Trey, we're not going to say that. We don't want to embarrass you. We're going to say you're hurt. Your knee, your finger, your shoulder, your back, something. You're hurt. And so now we're going with Jimmy. That could happen. Could it not?
I mean, it would be the soft way to keep his confidence going and still keep Jimmy around. I mean, they don't.
Real quick, hold on. You mentioned confidence. That's a big thing right now because every day it seems like it's getting a little bit lower. And you can blame there were some drop. Yeah, how could you have confidence when you're getting your butt kicked daily? He just went 3 for 9. You really think he walked off the field feeling like, nice? There were a couple of drops. I actually did well. That's their problem. Like, no, I think the entire offense every day is like, wow, this is worse than we thought. And yeah, that's a really good defense, but what is wrong here? And I don't think people are saying it's all Trey's fault, but I think everyone's feeling like it's all partially my fault, and I'm not the solution right now. We got to find one.
Wow. How about the backfield? Anybody shining in the backfield? Because I got to be honest, I missed a couple practices because I've been doing the radio fill-in. But I know, and maybe I'm a little too, into the undrafted free agents. But every time I watch Jordan Mason, I think this is an NFL back, and I'm not exactly sure why he didn't get drafted. I got a lot of confidence in that kid, and he hasn't even played one preseason game. I'm going to watch the Raiders tonight and get my preseason mode going. But I like Jordan Mason. I like what I've seen, and I like what I've seen so far to Trey Sermon. Give me your thoughts on the backfield and who stood out to you.
I like Jordan Mason a lot. He reminds me, I would have to say, of Arian Foster. Now, that's a lot because Arian Foster was a great player. But I remember Arian Foster was huge, but he could change directions like on a dime. He didn't move that fast, but he was so agile and he had great hands. And that's Jordan Mason, like really agile, can make people miss, hard to take down. I like him a lot. But here's the way I see it. It's like it's the running breakdown is going to be 20 carries for Elijah Mitchell, 7 or 8 for Trey Lance, and the rest goes to Debo. I don't know how much the other guys are kind of there in case people get hurt, and people will get hurt. So it's worth talking about him. Sermon's good. He's okay. He's going to be effective in the zone read game, I think. But to me, what you're looking for on this team is a replacement for Mostert, the guy who can turn the corner on the outside because Kittle's out there. Trent Williams is out there. Those are your best blockers. And that's what the offense is all built around, outside zone, the bootlegs. Who can get out there and turn the corner? Ty Davis-Price did it 2 days ago in practice. Sermon's not going to do it with his 4.6. And we saw Elijah Mitchell. That's not his game either. I think they were hoping Ty Davis-Price could do it. Debo can do it. He's the only guy on the team who can do it, Debo. And that's how he scores those touchdowns. I don't know where the touchdowns come from. The big plays on the outside. Maybe I think Ty Davis-Price might be able to do it. That would be big.
Jordan Matthews, man, I really had hope for Jordan Matthews, and then torn ACL, done for the year. That was a bad break. He looked like he was at least going to give Dwelly some run for that flexed out tight end, movement tight end position. Bad break for Jordan Matthews. He's worked hard.
Yeah, terrible. It feels kind of like the end. He tried to reinvent himself. He invested years into this. That's tough. That being said, he wasn't playing with the starters, really playing with the third stringers. I'm not sure he was going to make the team either way. I think someone like Tanner Hudson, he was getting targets yesterday with the first team. So he's in position. Dwelly hasn't really done much. They don't really use him much. I don't really know what the plan is for him. Then there's also Croft. What's his name? Tyler Croft,
former Bengal.
He's played a lot of football. And then there's Charlie Werner, who's still hurt. So it seems like it could be Kittle, Hudson, Dwelly. It could be like that. And then keep Werner for pup and bring him back later.
Anoop Swamanath donates $5. Do you know Anoop? He says, O-line pass pro has been the hidden reason Kyle loses Super Bowls and championship games. His O-linemen are undersized and often backup caliber. Jason Poe for center, ? What do you think? What do you think of that comment? It is interesting. The Niners have lost a lot of close games. Shanahan, his career is defined by close losses. And if there's a common denominator, I would say it's two things. He doesn't run the ball enough, and he doesn't get the ball in his best player's hands enough. The final drive against the Rams, Cooper Kupp got the ball, but Debo did not get the ball in the final 13 minutes. And if you go back to the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, Debo didn't touch the ball but twice, I believe, in the second half. To me, that's like number one reason that the 49ers offense stalled out is their inability to get the ball to their best players. Kittle didn't see a lot either. Mostert didn't see a lot either in some of those games. What do you think? Is Shanahan under any pressure coming into this camp at all? And what did you think of that comment from Anoop?
Well, absolutely Kyle Bear's responsibility, Jimmy Bear's responsibility. But to Anoop's point, Mike Person crumbled in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl against Chris Jones. Chris Jones took over. Yep. And then in the fourth quarter of the NFC Championship, Aaron Donald took over. And it's Aaron Donald. But the Niners, had kept him in check at times. But it's like that was with a lot of smoke and mirrors, jet sweeps, runs. At a certain point in the fourth quarter of a big game, can't do that stuff anymore. You have to really play straight up football, and they couldn't match up. So, I think they're hoping that Spencer Burford actually is someone with elite traits who can actually match up with elite athletes. And so far, so good.
Let's talk about Drake Jackson. I wasn't sure what to expect. I think we both were kind of like, what did we really see with Drake Jackson? He played at 270 as a freshman at SC. Then he played at 255 later on in his career. I kind of thought he moved better at 255, but he had his best production his freshman year at 273. He looked a little big at the mini camp. We said maybe like a tweener tackle end. And yet he was running with the ones. I didn't see the padded practice. What did Jackson look like with the pads on, and give me your evaluation of where he's at?
Yeah, the Drake Jackson thing was so confusing to me. When they took him, I'm like, another edge rusher? Really? Yeah, it's like the last thing you need, even though it's an important position. And then I saw him, I'm like, he doesn't even look like an edge rusher. He's big. He looks like a defensive tackle DN tweener.
Kind of like Arden Key. Remind me of Arden Key a little bit. Last year, Arden Key.
Yeah, okay, so that's very good. I'm glad that you said that. So I'm talking to Chris Kasarik today. First of all, I've noticed that in one-on-ones, they're starting to give Drake Jackson reps at D-tackle, going against guards. And even in 11-on-11s on third down, sometimes he's inside. And I said, why? What is it about his skill set that makes you feel like he can do this? And boom, he's like, well, he reminds me a lot of Arden Key. He's got a lot of Arden Key in him. He's got that wiggle. He's got that length. So it kind of clicked in my head, why did they take another edge rusher? They didn't. They lost Arden Key, who was a very important part of their third down pass rush. Arguably for a large part of that season, he was their second best pass rusher on the team after Bosa. He didn't do much in the playoffs, but he was really good. He's gone. They need another interior rusher. Larry, I think it's going to be Drake. I think it's going to be Drake. And looking back on camp, they didn't have Arden Key in there very much. And Chris Kasarik explained the whole thing. He's like, look, it's tough for edge rushers to learn to be DNs in our wide nine system. I got to teach them that first. Once they get that, then we'll work on their versatility. So I think they're in that stage with Drake Jackson. You need to learn how to be a D end in our system. But once you get that, we're going to give you more and more reps inside. And I think his role as a rookie will be Arden Key? Because frankly, how much are they really going to change with this team? Samson Ebukam's good. They like him. They pay him a lot of money. He was part of their third down pass rush. I think you're going to see Drakens. I could be wrong, but that's the impression I got from talking to Chris Krueger today.
I think it's the way that he schemes it up front. They play a lot of games. So like maybe you line up a Jackson or a Key at times at tackle, and then you go the tackle end stunt, and now he's actually rushing off the end. Or you put him as an end, and you go the TE stunt, and then all of a sudden the tackle goes first, and here comes the end around, and you got Drake Jackson right in the face of the quarterback. If you have a bigger bodied guy like a Key was this last year, or like Jackson appears to be now, maybe you get away with that. If you got a real linear guy who's like 250, 255, and he's all truly a speed rusher, you can't play those stunting games because he gets bounced around inside like a pinball. That's my read on it, is that they want an edge rusher with some bend, but they also want somebody with enough heft so that they can kind of play games up front and kind of hide what they're doing games wise pre-snap. That's my guess.
Their defense was so good with Arden Key.
Yeah, and it was the NASCAR package.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't because of Arden Key, but it worked. And you lost him. And now it makes sense. Like, you definitely want to replace that. And they didn't come out and say it day of the draft, but Chris Krueger essentially came out and said it today. And it's like, yes, of course. Because if you don't have Arden Key, who is that guy? Is it Javon Kinlaw? Kevin Givens? I don't know. All of a sudden, it makes so much more sense. Some people were saying Charles Omenihu. Maybe. Could be him. Could be Drake Jackson. One of the two.
Very interesting. They got a lot of bodies up front. Haha donates $5. How do you guys see the running back carries being split come the regular season? This is a really interesting question because I don't think anybody really knows the answer to this. How do you see this? Because seriously, there's a number of guys you could make arguments for. I mean, if it's based on the camp, it's a lot of Mitchell and everybody else. You've kind of painted a picture of Mitchell as the one and everybody else a dramatic two, but talent-wise, to me, Jeff Wilson looks great. I thought Ty Davis-Price looked pretty good. I think Sermon looks quicker, and I told you what I think about Jordan Mason. So they got a can full of backs. How are the reps going to be split up?
Just based on the way the usage is divvying out in camp, this is the Elijah Mitchell show. Like, he had 18.5 carries last year. I wouldn't be surprised if he had 21 carries a game this year. Like, he's going to have a Alfred Morris 2012 type usage season, I think. I mean, they're preparing him for it. He's way bigger now. It seems like they're saying, look, we'd like to give you as many carries as possible. He's never fumbled in his life or since high school or something. They trust him. They like him. I think he's going to get 20 carries a game. I think Trey Lance is going to get about 4 or 5 scrambles, 3-4 quarterback runs. And then they got to give Debo at least 2 carries. That's like 30 right there. So, I mean, they could find like 1 or 2 for Jeff Wilson Jr. or JaMychal Hasty or Ty Davis-Price. But, I mean, this team just went to the NFC Championship game. I don't think they're going to, change too much of their script. At a certain point, what they do works. And that involves giving the ball to Debo as a running back. He's incentivized to play running back in his contract. So I think we're still going to see him be the number 2 rusher on this team.
How about Kamoko Toure? How's he look? Because Matty Barrows was talking about Toure and how he's impressed, and I can see what there is to like about him. He looks the part. He looks the part. The question is, can they get it out of him? He was a hell of a player at Rutgers, but we haven't really seen him dominate in the NFL. They got him at a pretty good price from what I see. What do you think of Toure? How's he looking to you?
Great athlete, looks the part. 6'5", super fast. My impression after watching 3 of his reps in one-on-ones was I thought he'd do better. I'm not going to write him off, but I was really impressed by certain guys. Him, he's kind of struggled, and I felt like he didn't bend super well, which might explain why his athleticism hasn't translated to production yet in the NFL. But again, it's really early. I wouldn't write him off. Samson Ebukam wasn't doing anything until December last year. So he's got potential. I came away from that session being like, I was expecting more from him. So we'll see it again tomorrow. We'll see what he does.
How about Kim Diche? It's funny. When I watched the college film from Kim Diche, I'm like, God, man, this guy's got huge talent. He had top 15 picks in the first round kind of talent. Yeah. And he's now floated around 3-4 teams, but it seems like this might be a perfect fit for him as far as he may lack motivation, and sounds like Coach Eric is one of the great motivator D-line coaches in the game right now. How's Kim? What are you hearing about Kim Diche? What do you think of Kim Diche based on what you've seen?
He's okay. I want to say he was one of the guys who was making Jason Poe look good. Also, it's funny, they had him playing D end a little bit and rushing against Alfredo Gutierrez, and Alfredo was stopping him. But he's not a D end. I don't understand about that. I mean, he's a little bit smaller than I expected. I thought he would be like 310, 320. He looks 290. But he does seem like he has quickness and power. He's got a chance because there's so many injuries on this D line and D tackle. He definitely has a chance. But I don't know. I feel like they could put him on their practice squad. Can you still do that? Or was that
I don't know. But my thing is, I think, how can you be on the practice squad? I think he's in his third year. I thought it was like a first and second year thing. Maybe, I'm not sure. I have to look at the rules of the practice squad. Fred Warner and Iuk hooked up in a couple of brawls. I missed that. That was the day I was not there, so I didn't see the brawl, but I did see them kind of lock horns on the sidelines a couple days prior to that. And Warner was woofing, and Iuk was woofing back at him. And what do you think? I mean, you've seen all these camp brawls for years. Did this one stand out to you in any particular way, or is this just hot day in Santa Clara, pads on, guys getting tired of hitting each other?
It stood out because it was meaningful. It was deep. It was a very important day in this team's season. I mean, the fight itself was nothing. You know what those football fights are. They're wrestling. They're wearing
right.
You can't punch. There's nothing. But it needed to happen because Fred Warner, I think he says he does this on purpose, like sort of motivate people. But he goes over the line in practice. You're supposed to keep your teammates on their feet. They repeat it. Stay up.
Right. Guys will yell, keep them up, stay up.
Keep them up. Because you don't want the guy to get hurt in practice. He'll knock you down. Not only that, he will knock you down, flex on you, and talk crap. It's like, okay. And so I guess what he's saying is do something about it, right? Do something about it. And good point. Like, they were punking the offense every day. And someone needed to stand up to this guy. I didn't play football, but it's a very much like a alpha male sport. And someone needed to be the alpha male of the offense. And no one was stepping up. George Kittle wouldn't do it. I mean, Debo wasn't there. Trace, that's not the quarterback's job. Iuk stepped up. And he's pretty much brought it upon himself. So I'm going to fight Fred Warner. It's not okay what he's doing. He's breaking the code of professional football practice. I'm stepping up and I'm fighting him. And I think it's brought out the best in Iuk. Like, he's the best player on the field right now. He's a better player than Fred Warner right now. He's the best player on the team right now other than Bosa. And I'm not counting Debo because he hasn't been there. Better than Kittle. Not better than Trent Williams. He hasn't been there. But just in this camp, day in and day out, the guy who's working the hardest, competing the hardest is him. And maybe Fred Warner could take credit for that.
Iuk sure looks like he's got a nice little rapport with Trey Lance, doesn't he? They've repped it. They've repped it.
It's like what happened with Crabtree and Kaepernick. Remember that?
Yeah.
Crabtree was here. Alex Smith wouldn't throw to him. For whatever reason, Crabtree was never open enough because Crabtree wasn't fast. He was a contested catch guy. He had the longest arms in the league. He's just like, give me a chance. Kaepernick gave him a chance. Crabtree had some good years with Kaepernick. Same thing's happening with Iuk. He just wouldn't get a chance from Jimmy Garoppolo half the time. He wasn't open, or he was too far downfield, or whatever. And Lance is coming in and being like, dude, I love you. I trust you. I'm throwing the ball to you. And the last 4 or 5 practices, Iuk has been making some ridiculous contested catches. He reminds me a lot of Crabtree, just a little bit smaller and faster. Better. Probably. Potentially better. Crabtree has some good years.
What do you think of the secondary? To me, that was my first takeaway from camp. It's just this has become, if everybody's healthy, now that they've added Charvarius Ward and you got Hufanga just looking better and better and better and better. It seems like every time I see him, he looks a little bit better. I kind of think this might be the kind of the hidden strength of the defense. And this secondary, if it's really dramatically improved, then, you know, and with the front 7 that this team has, if they can stop the run, man, I mean, this secondary could be a whole lot better, especially production wise, when you're talking about interceptions. Give me your thoughts of the new look secondary with Charvarius kind of leading the way.
It's definitely an excellent, maybe the best base secondary they've had since Kyle's been here. And when I say base, the 4 of them, the 2 corners, the 2 safeties, because what you see a lot, even Iuk, like Iuk's having a great camp. Iuk's a really good player. It takes him a minute to get open against the secondary. When Lance gets to the top of his drop, Iuk's still working. And even when he does make the catch, Travarius Ward is in his face. Emmanuel Mosley's in his face. And Iuk is making a catch that makes everyone go, oh my God, how did he catch that? Those are the kind of catches that these cornerbacks are giving up. So give them full credit. Jimmy Ward might be the best player in the secondary. No one talks about him. I don't know about Talanoa. I'm saying he's fine, but I'm not sure that he's necessarily got the job by default. Yesterday, Travarius Moore started. And I think the whole plan was, let's be slow with Travarius Moore, but he's eventually going to compete for this job. So maybe we misinterpreted all those reps that Talanoa was getting early. I think he's in a competition right now. And from what I understand, I talked to Corey Unlin today, the DB coach, says you can't tell that Travarius Moore, had the injury. I don't know how true that is, but that's what he said. So it seems like they're higher on Moore than I expected. The whole thing with me, though, is that there's no reason to ever go base offense against this Niners defense. Their base defense is great. They got 3 great linebackers. Their biggest weakness is nickel. So this Niners offense doesn't really have a slot receiver that can challenge the nickel. And if they were game planning, they'd put Iuk and Debo in the slot and go to work. They haven't done that. I'm curious to see what happens when a team does that, because the Rams will do that. The Cardinals will do that. Every team is going to do that. And they haven't been tested that way. And D'Amico's very smart. He'll figure it out. He can move Mosley into the slot. He can figure it out, but they haven't even begun to figure that out yet.
It's too bad you couldn't combine Hufanga and Tarvarius Moore, because Tarvarius Moore has absolutely the measurables that you want, almost prototypical measurables, size, speed. But Hufanga's got the timing. Hufanga's got the angles down. Hufanga's done the mental reps. Hufanga's the guy you can trust. But man, Hufanga's got some athletic limitations, and Tarvarius has got off the charts athleticism. So it's going to be real. That will be one of the more interesting battles. Well, I mean, Tarvarius is interesting to me, just because is he a corner, Grant, or is he a safety? When he took that horrendous angle on Juju Smith-Schuster and turned like a 24-yard gain into like a 45-yard touchdown, I thought, oh my God, this guy cannot play safety ever again. And obviously, Shanahan likes him. The coaches like him. He got a pick in the Super Bowl.
Right.
He's got the physical ability for days. Are you seeing improvement? Is he taking better angles consistently? It's hard to evaluate this in practice, and it's really almost impossible without the pads. And I'll hold off to really make my final call until I see it actually in the preseason. What are you seeing?
Well, the thing about Moore, you can't tell the angles really. I can't in practice. So we'll see. But in terms of like ball production, he had a day in camp a few days ago where he had 2 picks in 1 practice. And I think that's what I've seen from him in camp. Like, he's around the ball a lot. He's very fast. You can use him in man coverage because of his size and speed. You can put him on a tight end. He didn't look good as a corner covering wide receivers, but you can put him on a tight end. He can do that. You can put him in center field. He can get from hash to hash. He can actually intercept the ball, which makes him kind of unique, at least in the Niners safeties. At least it differentiates him from Jimmy Ward and Jaquiski Tartt. Sorry, Jimmy. So yeah, I think he does that. Is he a liability as a tackler? Because if he is, then he can't play. But I think what you're going to see is they like to use three safety packages anyway. They did that a lot last year with Tartt, Jimmy, and Hufanga. They're doing it now in camp. They're going to all 3 of them are going to play. Let's put it that way.
Humbaby11 donates $4.99 just for the hell of it.
Nice.
Gotta love that. Haha donates $5. Grant, tell me why everything will be okay with the O-line. Give me hope. Give me hope there.
I can't do that for you. The O-line coach said like, I think verbatim, we could be good, we could be average, we could be bad. I don't know. So the way he doesn't even know, they don't even know if they have a center on the team. That's what kills me about this team. Like, they have such high aspirations, but they can't even say that they have a center. I think they might have a really good right guard, maybe, but they don't know what they have on their offensive line. They're in the like wait and see period. And if it's bad in a month, they could always make a move, but they don't know. They don't know.
Better second-year corner in camp, Ambry Thomas or Diamador Lenoir?
Not even close. Lenoir's having a really bad camp. And it's like he's not giving up catches in front of him. He's letting the ball go over his head. And if he keeps doing that, he'll be out of the league. And it's just camp. And I know he had some good games down the stretch and very pressurized moments, but whoa, dude, every day, ball going over his head.
Who now? That's Lenoir.
No, that's Thomas.
That's
Ambry.
Thomas. Okay,
Ambry.
Thomas. Yeah,
Lenoir
Thomas is the
had
guy getting toasted.
Thomas getting toasted. Sorry if I wasn't clear. Thomas getting toasted. Lenoir actually doing pretty well. He had a pick 6 yesterday.
Charvarius said he's got some dog in him. He was talking up Lenoir.
He does. He does.
Interesting.
I'd like to see him in the slot because it seems like Womack might be a little green. I mean, he's a rookie.
Yeah. How is that slot position is vital. How's the competition there going to look?
It's just tough. I haven't really been watching the wide receiver corner one-on-ones. I've been watching the O-line, D-line. So maybe I would know more if I've been watching that. But in the 11-on-11s, the Niners just don't have slot receivers that are getting the ball right now. So it's hard to really judge any of these nickels. I don't know. I guess we'll see more when but what they're gonna do their joint practices against Minnesota. That's a base offense too. I don't know, man. I don't know.
What are you looking to see in those practices? That's a great one. I want to go down that angle because we saw some mocking of Garoppolo and the Niner offense when they got together was the Chargers.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
what do you expect to see with the Vikings?
Here's the thing. They have two practices going at once. You'll have the Niners offense against the Vikings defense, the Niners defense against the Vikings offense. So as a reporter, you got to make a choice right off. Which half of practice do you want to watch? Can't see the whole thing. Unlike regular training.
I'd like to see the Vikings offense against the Niner defense.
I would like to, because that would be, great against great, but I can't do that. I can't fly to Minneapolis and not watch Trey. So I'll be watching the Niners offense against a different defense and see, because the narrative right now, especially in Santa Clara, is, well, it's a great defense. What are we going to do? Okay, well, go face the Vikings defense that ranked freaking 30th last year or whatever and see how you do. It should be a lot better, right? So that's going to be a different kind of test. If iron really sharpens iron and all this adversity is going to make the Niners better, let's see it in Minneapolis against a worse defense.
You've been a huge advocate for Trey. I have as well. I'm a believer in Trey. Now, there are people out there, as I said, Cilio's comparing him to who did I say Cilio's comparing him to?
Giovanni Carmazzi.
Carmazzi. And I saw Carmazzi in that Hall of Fame game against the Patriots, and he literally was throwing his passes like this. He was like, it looked like he was like a shot putter. Reminded me of Michael Carter in the Olympics. And I was like, what? That's his motion? And I'm thinking, Walsh watched this guy and signed off on this. Mariucci, Greg Knapp, this was the guy they wanted? Unbelievable. I'm like, this is a horrendous day for the Niners. And he never made it to the regular season. He never did anything. It's kind of sad. And, of course, Tom Brady started against him in that game, and we all know how that went for Brady. But where are you as far as Lance right now? Did you need to see something? I mean, how much do you want to see him play in that first preseason game? How important is it for him to have success? Have you in any way changed your stance on, they should go forward with Lance and wave goodbye to Jimmy, or are you hedging now that you're seeing Lance struggle a little bit?
No, I don't think bringing back Jimmy is the solution. I think Lance is the better quarterback. I think they need to get rid of Jimmy. I think what's happening is they don't have Debo there, and they're overmatched to begin with. But Debo is the guy who gets open right away. He's the guy who's explosive off the line. He has the quick throws. He could throw behind the line of scrimmage. You take him out of the offense, and what you have is Lance gets to the top of his drop, and no one's open. No one is open. I will get open, or you could throw a contested catch. Kittle will get open eventually, or you could throw a contested catch. But right now, he's in a terrible situation. And I think actually, given what he's facing, he's doing really well. I'm encouraged. What the defense can do now, they were much more conservative in the past. They had a great pass rush, but they would play 9 yards off. And there were easy completions to be had for Jimmy Garoppolo and Deebo Samuel. Now, with Trevarius Ward and Emmanuel Mosley, they're playing press coverage. And they are taking away the quick slants, the high completion, quick throws. They're taking that away. And they're saying, we want you to hold the ball a little bit longer, throw lower percentage throws, and have to contend with this pass rush, which is exactly what they should be doing. And unless you have a guy like Debo who can get open instantly, you're screwed. So what he's doing is throwing deep, throwing low, throwing outside the numbers, creating something out of nothing. And the numbers don't look good, but actually there's been a lot of drops. He's thrown the ball away. I actually think his ball placement has been good. And I think given what he's going up against, very encouraging. I mean, again, remember what it looked like when Aaron Rodgers had Devontae Adams and was trying to find something to do against his defense. He couldn't find anything. Dak couldn't do anything. Trey's finding, it looks like that for Trey, but he's competing. I think it's actually encouraging. I think he's going to be a really good quarterback.
I'm loving the fact that the Niners are suffocating people at the line of scrimmage a little bit, and they're going to play some press man because, the soft zone is just when you go up against the best quarterbacks in the league, and they start playing pitch and catch. I mean, heck, we saw a career backup in Colt McCoy complete 85% last year against the 49ers zone.
That happened.
Yeah, and he was disciplined against that zone, but he was just playing pitch and catch. They got to do more to challenge opposing quarterbacks than sit in a soft zone all year.
And that's why they brought in Travarius Ward. And Mosley's trying to do it too. And when the season starts, teams are going to go with Mosley and see if he can really hold up playing that style. Because last year, frankly, he couldn't. But
he looks good, though. Mosley looks really good. Yeah.
He is. And it's like maybe things will change when Debo comes. Maybe, it's easy to just get up and I'm sorry, Iuk's not explosive off the line. He's not running a 4-4. Debo is. Debo will kill you. So I'm curious to see if things change once Debo's like really back. Like he's not quite back yet. Back.
Couple last ones with Grant Cohn. Grant, appreciate you stopping by. What do you make of all the new offensive coaches? Are you seeing anything? Now, camp, it's hard to evaluate. We're not seeing it. It's hard to evaluate this in the preseason, let alone in camp. But there's a lot of new offensive coaches. Have you seen anything that makes you think that there's going to be different wrinkles, a different looking offense? Or do you think it'll be Trey operating an offense that looks very similar to the offense that Jimmy operated a year ago?
I think it's going to be quite different. And I don't say that based on what I've seen. I think they're trying to conceal it. What they're doing right now is installing the most vanilla stuff. But the way it's structured is 3 preseason games in 12 days. When the final preseason game is over, I believe they have 17 games between that and week 1. So that's 2.5 weeks where the media is not around, where they have total privacy, where they can install their offense. And I think they will. I do think it's interesting. Like they lost a lot of offensive coaches. It feels like an entirely new staff. It feels like a lot of people didn't want to be part of this transition, and some people did. So that's interesting. And frankly, the way the offenses look so far in camp, I wonder who's going to take ownership of it because it looks awful right now across the board. So maybe that's just the coaches coming together as well. Because I don't know, maybe losing McDaniel and Embry and Welker and Scangarella, all these guys is going to have an effect because you talk to Brian Greasy right now, be like, what kind of coach are you? And he'll like, I don't even know. I'm trying to figure it out. It's like, that's great, man. Except there's a lot in the line for Trey Lance right here. And it's kind of unfair that he's already on his second quarterback coach in 2 years. It's too bad they couldn't have figured this out last year. I feel like this is very, I will say nut crunching time, but there's a lot of pressure on a lot of coaches who have never done anything. They got to work this out. And they keep telling themselves it's the defense it's the defense that's good. Well, hopefully, because right now the offense is a mess. They got to figure it out.
Alex is back in the biz. Love you guys together. We appreciate that a lot. I was talking to Barrows the other day. He mentioned the UCLA kid, and I know you're UCLA kid. Give me your thoughts on Quantress Knight. We're 43 at camp. Harding is lining up as the one in the Clippers. There's Womack is a kid from Quantress more 24th. My Bruin people want this ball the alpha in that secondary. See, he showing as much as you as Matt Barrows.
I saw him have a sack. He came in on a blitz. He looks like one of these undrafted free agent DBs who's going to be on the practice squad and eventually make his way to the team. He can play nickel. He can play safety. He's probably going to be good on special teams. He looks like the coaches are going to love him. Yeah, I think that's a good call. And plus, he went to UCLA. So that's great. It means he's a scholar and a gentleman as well. So, yeah, I like him a lot. I don't think he's going to make the 53 right off the bat, but I think he's going to be here for a while. I like him.
Fields. I heard people say that Fields is 10.
Larry's gone. Now I've been entrusted with his entire channel. Okay. All right. I'll hold it down. I won't do anything inappropriate. How you guys doing? Hey, check out 49ersqcmerch.com. I'm selling merch. And there's going to be new designs and stuff too. So check in frequently. If there's nothing to your taste at this moment, check back next week because, there's always going to be, and we take suggestions. I'm just going to sell stuff on you and Larry's channel. Buy my merch. Also, I'm on Cameo. You want me to say happy birthday to someone you don't like or you do like? Boom, I'm on Cameo. I could really roast you too. I won't hold back. Larry's going to have to figure. I actually can't leave I feel like I can't leave until he comes back, right? Because he can't. This is going to be live. This is rough. Because hey, catch me on my channel in 10 minutes. I'm doing a show with Rohan, who writes for 49ers Web Zone and has been at every single day of camp. I got to say, I really respect that. Of all the people who have come along in the game and tried to be self-made in the 49ers journalism game, Rohan might remind me of me the most. Man, that's grinding. You can get a $5 ticket to camp and watch. I would do that if I didn't have a credential. I'll go every day, make a name for myself. He's doing it. So I'm getting on my channel, see what he thinks. I have a feeling Larry's going to have to like restart his modem. Larry probably is freaking out right now trying to call people, be like, what happened? Sorry, Larry, I got you, man. So what's up, guys? Rohan's good. Doing the best he can. He's over there with his. I used to bring these to camp every day because Harbaugh used to try to mess with you. He used to try to put like hundreds of yards between the team and the media. So I would come in like, I don't care, Harbaugh. I'm prepared. Killing time on Larry's channel. He would do this for me though. What's up, Amin? How you doing? I didn't do it, Bob. It wasn't me. 49ers QCE merch. This is a great this is a great advertisement for my website. Who do you think is better? Why do you think Harbaugh is better than Kyle? Well, Harbaugh won more than Kyle. He was more consistent than Kyle. And Harbaugh, I mean, a lot of players didn't like Harbaugh. They thought he was tough on him and Kyle's the good guy. But I'll tell you something. How do quarterbacks feel about Harbaugh? How do quarterbacks feel about Kyle? Kyle's very negative towards quarterbacks. He's very critical. He doesn't build up their ego. In fact, he takes it down a notch every day. And then when there's an interception or something goes wrong or they lose, Kyle blames the quarterback. He never shields the quarterback from blame. What I think Harbaugh's best thing wasn't that he was a quarterback whisperer, but he was a quarterback ego stroker majorly. He was like, look, I played in the league. I was a first-round pick. I got scapegoated in Chicago. I know how it feels. I know how it feels. I was thrown under the bus. So I'm not going to do that. In fact, I'm going to be your biggest advocate until I throw you under the bus and replace you. Because he really switched on Alex Smith, right? But for a while, Alex Smith was the greatest quarterback in the world. Then Colin Kaepernick was the greatest quarterback in the world. And it's like he spoke it into existence. Kyle doesn't. We're all waiting for Kyle to say something nice about Trey Lance, right? We're all waiting for that. He won't do it. Harbaugh, can you imagine what Harbaugh would have said about Trey Lance by now if he had drafted him? So I think that's a big thing. The quarterback is the franchise. He's the most important person in the franchise, not the most important player on the team, the most important person in the franchise. His ego matters. But Kyle's in competition with the quarterback's ego. In fact, he almost likes quarterbacks who are submissive. Am I wrong? Harbaugh wanted the alpha. So that's a distinction. Although it's not like Harbaugh's doing anything as a coach anymore. What's up, Larry?
Man,
Larry.
That's not happening all the time.
Larry, I don't think we're going to be able to save this one, but I think what we should do is probably end the show now.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Hey, man, thanks for coming on.
My pleasure.
Good stuff. Appreciate you. See ya.
See ya. Appreciate you.